if I could maybe get a raise of hands, how many of you are using like a hybrid type of format in your school, or all virtual? Who's all virtual? Who's in person? So we have a few that were in person. So this kind of, just a bit of information. Chatham County was where I'm at. We actually are going to start a transition phase-in period where we're going to start with a hybrid group of A, and then a group of B, and then a group of C. So there'll be some students that show up on Monday, Tuesday, and then we are off on Wednesday for cleaning, and then another group will come in on Thursday, Friday. And then the other group is all virtual. So, in my class, in one of my classes I do a lot of group projects, and we do a lot of problem solving and building and all kinds of, problems that we try to bring for the students to handle. And one of the things that I've been considering, which I think would work very well for us, is I have a handful of students that said that they were going to come in, and we all have capabilities to do kind of Zoom meetings and things like this. And I know that I have a few on my screen, I have a few lists of talking points of which programs to use. One of the things that I think will work pretty well, even though we may not all be there physically, I think we'll be able to at least have some of our students there that we can kind of go. So choosing the right format, I use Zoom, and the reason I do, because I like the breakout rooms. Because if you're going to have more than one group, it's kind of nice. What I've done in the past is actually put the students in their own little rooms, and I can able to bounce around like I would be in class, where I could visit each group and see how they're doing and kind of check and monitor them. So that works pretty good. But, your district may be Teams. There's GoToMeetings, which also work. So a lot of these you're probably familiar with. One thing with Skype, I've noticed that's the sound quality on Skype is pretty good, but again, you have to, watch that. With Zoom, you're limited to one person that actually can speak. And then Georgia Tech uses Blue Jeans, which we're on now. But, could you go to the next slide, please? The things that you need to sort of look at, though, are your district policies to make sure that your school district chooses one thing. Ours was adamant that we did Teams, and just the other day they released kind of a statement that said, no, you can use Zoom now, and we went ahead and go ahead, and that way we could have your email associated with Zoom and everything works. But when you do those kind of online things, please be careful with security. I make sure that all my rooms have a password, and there's I'm able to kick people out if they're not there. I've had pretty good success. You also need to make sure that the students have good computers. I know sometimes the Chromebooks will have a little issue if they have Chromebooks kind of getting on and staying on, so that could be an issue. And then if some of them are free, and the reason I have costs in there because sometimes the district will pay for those, sometimes there might be a cost for it, or you're limited because you don't have the correct version. But I think that's all probably information that you may already know. Now, as far as the project environment, I guess what I found is some of the things that we've done, for the class and the setting is to make sure first that the students are all equipped technology, that they have all the technology that they need with computers and things like that. I've set up ground rules, ways to say this is what's going to happen, this is how we act, this is how you do things. You don't want to be in someone's, if they're in their bedroom or if somebody walks across, it's all that kind of smart classroom management in the virtual setting. Making sure they're in a good, comfortable area, that's well lit. I know that some districts even kind of frown on having the videos on, but again, you know, you have to check with your district because of liabilities and legal issues for that. Other things that I did in the past is I had weekly meetings. So I had a routine that the students were in, and we always met there. We were able to make sure that, you know, we all were at the same time. We were able to kind of get into that routine, which worked out very well. About an hour that we met, so that worked out pretty well for us. Depending on the date of the project or where you're at in the process, you might need to increase that to a little bit more than just once a week. And then I had deliverables, which were different things, milestones along the way. When you look at the curriculum, you'll notice that there's like some certain parts of the design process. And at each end of those, I had deliverables, and that was a way for me to check to make sure that they were on task. And then I think that we all know about synchronous and asynchronous learning. Right now, this is sort of synchronous. Asynchronous, I sometimes do that with the students, where I'll give them the curriculum. A lot of times, if you've heard things in the past about flipping the classroom, it'd be very similar to that. You allow them, but again, the students need to be pretty motivated and, you know, have them go through some of the things that you need to, and then come in later with whatever you have for a check or deliverable and make sure that the way to get the curriculum out there. Another thing is to stay positive. This is a weird environment for us, and sometimes even weirder for the students. I know for me personally, we had a choice at the beginning of school if I wanted to stay home or if I wanted to go to school. And I chose to go to school because I needed the structure. There were too many distractions for me at home. And I was in my classroom, and that worked pretty well. But that's something that we have to work with the students. And then you have to be flexible. You should know that if you're doing anything virtual, that things happen. You may have a meeting scheduled, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's a storm, the internet goes out. So you have to make sure that things are able to, you know, get the students caught up on where they need to be. As far as the student environment, again, needing to check the districts, you know, a lot use Google Classroom, Schoology. We have one called It's Learning, and I have an issue with that because I can't use it. They're having, you know, issues with my classes where they're all in one group, so I have all year in one class. All my sections are in one, so they're trying to work on that. So depending on what your school uses, you know, these are good formats to put that information out there. There's a few other formats that you can use and get those, but again, you need to check on your school policy. I like Schoology because it works pretty well for what I want to do, to put things out in files and folders and all kinds of, you know, but Google Classroom is basically also the same too. The project management is going to be the hard part. One of the things that I have in here is, you know, outsourcing. And I know that Mr. Cohn's going to have a December 1st, I think, workshop on prototyping. But one of the things that I'm juggling and kind of going through is like, how do we get the students to, in a virtual setting, come up with a decent prototype? A lot of things that I think that, you know, we need to do because they are virtual is maybe outsource some of the work. Now, we're fortunate to have a 3D printer, and I think one avenue that I'd like to do, depending on the student's problem, of course, is to go through the process of them outsourcing something to me. If I'm at school and they have an idea, they need to show me their technical drawing with all the directions and, you know, everything that I need, and I will create and make their product for them. You know, as far as anything else, we have the capability to build and do things if we need to. And that, I think, again, if they give me the instructions, it just kind of takes the prototyping to a different avenue and allows something to still be built and made, because a lot of the students probably don't have a lot of resources like tools and things, different materials at home. So that might be a way to virtually get something out there. You know, there's also ways to outreach to companies. A lot of times companies, knowing in the situation that we're in, where parents work and things like that, might be able to help us out when it comes time for prototyping. Now, also, there's a ton of virtual testing. You know, I know as an example, in some of the CAD softwares, that you could import a drawing and you can put it in through a structural test, and it will actually give you the stress and strain on any kind of members or joints that you have. So that could be something that replaces some of the testing features that they might want to do, to say, here, that we even went through this part and we show where it might be some weaknesses and how we can improve it. There's virtual wind tunnels, so if their object or whatever their problem was is to test, you know, drag coefficient, they're able to put a shape in there and actually test it. So there are a whole bunch of different virtual testing and virtual labs that they could actually do to supplement the real thing if they needed to. So I have a few talking points here that we can open it up for discussion, but just a couple of little things. You know, virtual presentations. The reason I had that on there is because last year I did that in my class. It wasn't necessarily for the InVenture Prize. We did that early on, but then when we went in March and April, we were in this, you know, lockdown mode. My class needed to continue, so we were able to do the Zoom, get in our groups, that students were able to work together, and we did a virtual presentation just for our class, and it worked out very well. I was able to have a couple of other teachers come in and help judge them, and it was all virtual. The students were able to share their screens with us. A couple of them did a few problems. As an example, one went with food. They did something with trying to make edible plates, and they actually baked a whole bunch of things in their, you know, in their parents' kitchen, and, you know, it worked out pretty well, but they were able to show the testing and everything that they did through videos that they took and cameras. So those types of presentations worked out very well for us. As far as you need to be a little tech savvy. I know we're getting inundated with just all kinds of different new things that we have to do. You know, I've learned so much. Even though I've been teaching for a while, I've learned to use, you know, Sign Up Genius. I've learned to use all kinds of different tools available for us because that's something that we've had to do. So those might be the things that you have to also do, is try to get in there and, you know, learn some things so there aren't any issues and you can continue and move on. You know, I also have embody empathy. You know, you need to have some empathy with the students. And that kind of leads us to the next thing with expectations for high and low, you know, projects. I think I still expect high quality projects. You know, I'm not going to have really, you know, it's like, well, you know, low expectations of things. You know, I want to keep the expectations pretty high. And that's what I want to try to do with my students. And also I want to try to make it fun. You know, a lot of our students that are in this are probably the same type of personality where they're highly motivated, they're great students, and, you know, they got so many great ideas. You know, we want to try to make this fun. Even though they're self-motivated, we got to keep going so it is fun for them. So that's kind of it. I hope, you know, some of this information might have helped you. You know, I'm no expert. Like, you know, we're learning as we go. So, those are just some of the things that I've had in the past that kind of helped me out. Does anyone have any questions?
We have with us Miss Nancy Earnest. She is one of our original K-12 InVenture Prize teachers. She is one of our lead teachers now, and she has a wealth of knowledge. I am going to stop sharing my screen so she can share her screen with you and go over the website with you, and she will be up in just a moment.
All right. Hi, I'm Nancy, and I am very, very lucky, fortunate to work with an amazing team of teachers who've taught K through 12. And this summer, we took our website that has the curriculum to another level. So what I'm going to do is pull it up. Can everybody see that okay? Can you see the invention lesson plans for K-12? All right, great. What we had for the past 3 years was the 4 through 8. That's kind of where we started because I taught gifted students in grades 1 through 5, and we focused the InVenture curriculum with our 4th and 5th graders. But as we continued with this process and we would present this curriculum at different trainings, a lot of teachers were asking us, well, what about high school website or K through 3 website? And so Dr. Moore was always willing to add and improve. She said, yep, let's go for it. Let's do the website for grades 1 through 3. We decided to make it 1 through 3 instead of K. We almost think kindergarten deserves its own little introductory kind of, I don't know, more totally hands-on with the design thinking process. So, but what we did with the grades 1 through 3 is used a lot of picture books. We've modeled the whole design thinking process using the problem of a squirrel being in bird feeders. And we help the students move through, the empathy, the define, the ideate, testing, the making a prototype, all of that throughout, just like we did with 4 through 8, but modeling it with the squirrel. And then they can go back. And we tried to offer a lot of options for teachers. Like if you're in 1st grade, you may do a whole group modeling. And that's written up in the lesson plans, or you might, if you have 2nd and 3rd, there's graphic organizers that the students can compile to form their logbook. So we tried to make it really engaging for young learners, and we were happy with how that's going. My partner, Dr. Valerie King, who worked on this with me, she's piloting it with her 2nd graders, and I think it's going really well. And so it's going to be fun to see where we go with that. But I do want to point out, I know I was talking to Tiffany when we were all coming online, and just know there's a lot of flexibility with all the curriculum you see at these 3 different levels. For example, if you have 1st graders and you're like, this year it's virtual, there's a lot of challenges we're all dealing with, maybe I'm just going to model this process with my kids with the same problem, and we're just going to go through it together. Or if you just want to give them the problem that they will solve on their own, that is perfectly fine. So we just want you to have the freedom and flexibility to use it in a way that works for you. Because talking to I'm retired now, recently retired, but talking to my friends in the classroom, I know it's been extremely challenging, and trying to do this curriculum online, but I know they're getting it done because, as Tom said, they're staying positive, they're being flexible, and just taking it a week at a time. So then when you get down to grades 4 through 8, again, same type of curriculum, but it's just this has more in-depth graphic organizers. There's a bigger emphasis on research and having the kids do that more independently. And then grades 9 through 12, Julia Varnado led this group with Kathy Lamman, if any of you know her, and Ann Baxley, high school teacher. And this is a little bit like the videos are more their level of learning, more sophisticated compared to what you might see in grades 4 through 8. But I encourage you to look through the grade level that fits you. And for teachers, we did a very in-depth teacher training. Gosh, when was that, Danielle? Probably back in August. And so we have all the trainings recorded in this tab, and then the webinar series are added as well. So that's where you can access this training video. But each group team walked through the website. So Valerie King, I know we had technical difficulties the day that we did our breakout session for grades 1 through 3. So Valerie went back and just did an overview of what we did in grades 1 through 3. And Julia and Kathy and Ann, their session worked well. And so they were able to record the 4 through 12. They kind of went back and forth between the two of those. But again, the pacing guides are really important to look at as a resource. You can download these. We have all, if there is a graphic organizer, this is where there's a Google Docs that's linked to it. One problem we have is I get all these emails for, and I don't think it comes from Savannah schools, that area, but it's where teachers want access to edit some of these files. And what we ask you to do is just go ahead and make a copy, rename it, and then you can adapt these handouts to fit your kids. So just know these are view only, and that you can adapt them once you make a copy. But so anyway, it's all laid out here, and we have given many teacher lesson directions, and hopefully you can use this in your lesson plans that you have to provide to administrators, that would be helpful as well. So anyway, I didn't want to go into every grade level because that would take us into a whole other hour, but I did want to give you an overview of it. And at the end of each one, we have the competitions where you can go to the information and just get the details for this year. And here's the timeline for this year. So if anybody, Danielle, I'll turn it back to you. If anybody has any questions about the curriculum, or as you go through it, please feel free to email me. I check my email frequently. I know there were some teachers in Rabun County who, this was their first year, and sometimes you just want to talk through some of your questions, and I love to do that. So I think this is just such a great program, and I'm just so proud of all the teachers still doing this. I know there's so many hurdles this year with school, and I know where I am in Cobb, they started fully virtual, and now they're going face-to-face, but students have a choice, so they're still going to have a foot in both worlds. So my hat's off to everybody because you guys are getting it done, and I'm looking forward to the competition. Not sure what that'll look like then, but
Thank you, Nancy.
all right, I'm going to stop sharing so you can turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So moving forward, here are some action items we believe that you should look forward to as you are progressing forward with the K-12 InVenture Prize curriculum and competition. We do believe that you should develop an action plan to get your students actively involved in the curriculum and preparing for the competition. Select a collaboration platform that would work best for you and your students so you can work with them and check their process along the way. And select a meeting format and schedule where you can have weekly check-ins with your students to check their progress, an area for them to ask questions. We also would like for you to access the curriculum website. It is available for you at no charge. It can be found at k12inventure.org. We would also like to make a note that the website is available and your students can access this if you would like for them to. We are in the process of making the website adaptable for students. All of those resources will be made available for them if they need closed captioning or transcripts to be able to read what is going on in each of the videos that is presented to them. And last Registration is open. It will remain open throughout October, so we have extended that. So if you have not had an opportunity to register your school, it is still open, it is still available. The link is not posted, but we will certainly get that to you if you need the link to register your school for the 2020-2021 K-12 InVenture Prize competition. That is all we have for you today. On this page, you can see all of our contact information. Nancy, if you do not mind putting yours in the chat for questions, if anyone would like to ask you specific questions.
Yes.
You can follow us on all the social media platforms, and our next webinar series is October 21st, which is Getting Beyond the First Idea. We do know that is a very important topic, and we look forward to having that with you, and Nancy and Julia will be leading that for us. I am going to open the floor up for questions. You can ask any questions that you have of us about this presentation or any other question that you may have come across as you prepare for the state final as well.
Danielle, there are a couple questions in the chat that I could read for you.
Okay.
One is on mock pitch day, can we just attend and listen in on some of the pitches? I don't think we'll have a pitch ready in time.
I am going to deflect to Jasmine. Jasmine, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Program manager. So on the mock pitch day. So our mock pitches are not live events. We send YouTube videos to the judges to review within a week and then send the feedback to the teachers. However, and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there are some mock pitch videos and reviews on the InVenture Curriculum website for you to go through to see what a pitch day would actually look like. How many teams can you have per school? We have not capped how many teams per school. So just email us to see how many teams you have. We try not to cap for the pitch days to get as much feedback as you possibly can for all your teams.
Yeah, I want to tag team with Jasmine on that. I know I've worked with teachers who feel like they have to have this really put together pitch in order to participate in pitch day. And really don't be afraid just for the kids to get up and say, this is a problem we're looking at, we care about it, and this is what we've learned about it. And they may just share what they're brainstorming. I mean, wherever they are in the process, the evaluators, and correct me if you guys at Georgia Tech are like, ah, but you know, it's just been very valuable for my kids just to share where they were, and they always get something valuable that guides them with their research or with their solution, an idea they hadn't thought of, or even just a material for a prototype. Each team always gets a nugget of information that is helpful, even if it's not complete at the time of pitch day.
Right. That we're talking about their project and what their prototype would look like. They didn't have any type of board. They were just reading off a piece of paper, and that was completely fine. This is just some preliminary feedback for the team, just to kind of figure out where they are and think about things like different avenues that they haven't thought of yet.
And the information that the students receive from the judges is very valuable. We have seen one project at pitch day, and then when it comes to the regionals or the state finals, they have refined it so much that it's a brand new project, and it's new awe for the judges.
And I do want to, because we're exploring registration, we also have days until November 16th. That gives about a month and a half extra.
So we'll change that on the website so everybody's aware. November 16th is pitch day. Is that correct, Jasmine? I didn't hear you fully for a second there.
Yes. So let me make sure. 16th through the 20th is what we said, right before Thanksgiving. So if the teams can upload their pitches before Thanksgiving, the few weeks after Thanksgiving, we'll have them reviewed and they'll get the feedback before Christmas break.
I just want to say a big thank you to Tom and to Nancy for being brave and presenting on our very first webinar. We appreciate you and hope this was valuable. And if it was valuable, tell your friends. I think we have some good topics queued up for the fall. And we know these are really challenging times. So if there's anything we can do to support you on our side, you know, we're here to help, not to make your life harder. And if there are any more questions, please go ahead and interject.
Well, and I also want to say Julia Varnado and I, who've gone through many iterations of projects with kids, we brainstormed all the ways our kids went awry with this process for when your kids have that, to how to get beyond the first bad idea. And we really had a lot of fun putting together our examples. So we really hope you can join us in October. Because we feel your pain when sometimes they come up with things and you're like, what? So anyway, hopefully that will be helpful.
On the screen, as I mentioned, is our contact information. You can email us. We have, in addition to our team that I mentioned earlier, we also have 5 student assistants. So your answers or your questions will be answered. So please email us any question that you may have as you're preparing your students for the K-12 InVenture Prize. We also post frequently on social media, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I think we're working on a Twitter account. Well, we have a Twitter account, so follow us on all these platforms. We do provide little nuggets of information throughout, and our webinar series, once again, will continue on October 21st, and after that, we have 3 more sessions, and they're all free. Just register, and the link will be provided for you so you can attend. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on October 21st for Getting Beyond the First Idea.